Hey, you, the one who's always complaining about your city. Yes, you. Oh, the traffic is hell. The rent is expensive. The river stinks. My friend, relax. It could be much worse. Imagine being stuck in Hanoi traffic for 12 hours, breathing pure charcoal-flavored air in New Delhi, or paying $3,000 in rent in Los Angeles and still ending up living on the streets. The reality is the world is full of spots that make your own city look like paradise. I'm genuinely referring to true urban hells. And today you're going to take a tour with me through some of them. Let's go? 1. New Delhi, the invisible hell. Ever complained about the sewage smell near your house? Well, in New Delhi, just by breathing, you already feel like you've swallowed half a pack of cigarettes for free. The capital of India is living in a true environmental apocalypse. The air has a pollutant concentration 23 times higher than the WHO recommended limit. To give you a better idea, on certain days, the sky isn't blue, it's not even gray, it's just pure white, white with toxic smoke. It's like the entire city is trapped inside an unlit barbecue that just keeps emitting smoke. And what about the water? The well-known Yamuna River. It was once sacred, but today it more closely resembles a broken washing machine, brimming with toxic foam, garbage, and chemical products that create a white layer upon its surface. The faithful still immerse themselves there due to religious tradition, but one's faith really needs to be exceptionally strong to believe that's a purifying bath. And if you believe things couldn't possibly get any worse, allow me to introduce you to the Everest of garbage, the Ghazipur landfill, a 72-meter-high mound so massive that it's already marked on maps as a mountain. Every single day, 2,000 tons of garbage get dumped there. Meanwhile, 8 million people live nearby, breathing in the stench, smoke, and toxic gases. To make the irony even worse, this landfill was opened in 1984 and reached its maximum capacity in 2002. Yes, 2002, but they never stopped dumping garbage. The result is that today, it threatens to crumble like a volcano made of plastic bags and food leftovers. New Delhi has been called the most polluted city on the planet, and that's no exaggeration. Living there is an extreme sport. You wake up, open the window, and you already breathe your first poison of the day. 2. Lagos, the city that never moves. If you think the traffic in your city is bad, relax. In Lagos, Nigeria, the traffic isn't merely bad, it's completely gridlocked. The city has 22 million inhabitants, and of those, more than 8 million commute every day in 5 million vehicles. Now imagine that absurd quantity of individuals attempting to squeeze into a road network that feels even more confined than a narrow village lane. Of course, it turns into the largest open-air parking lot on the planet. To give you an idea, a resident of Lagos spends on average 1,560 hours a year stuck in traffic jams. That amounts to almost 65 full days of their lives spent simply halted in traffic. In other words, wasting time in traffic there isn't just an exception, it's practically a way of life. And as if the chaos on the streets weren't enough, Lagos is also home to one of the most bizarre landscapes in the world. Makoko, nicknamed the Venice of Africa. But hold on, don't be fooled by the fancy name. Makoko is in fact a floating favela, a slum built on stilts right in the middle of a lagoon. It was once a mere fishing village, but now it serves as home to approximately 200,000 people who reside literally atop the water in improvised shacks. The irony is that Makoko has even turned into a tourist attraction, with some people calling it a city on water. Yet the reality remains harsh. There's a lack of sanitation and infrastructure, and raw sewage flows freely into the very same water where people fish and source their food. It's what they call Venice, but with gondolas swapped for canoes made of leaky wood. Lagos is precisely that, a crazy contrast. On one side, you have skyscrapers and millionaires. On the other, eternal traffic jams and a floating favela that looks like a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie. 3. Skid Row, the lost neighborhood of the USA. When someone mentions Los Angeles, what first comes to mind? Hollywood, mansions with pools, luxury cars. Well, just a few blocks from the Walk of Fame, there exists a place that truly feels like another planet. Skid Row, the neighborhood of the forgotten. Over 4,000 unhoused individuals reside there, all concentrated within a mere 50 city blocks. It's the highest density of homeless people on the planet. Picture a city inside a city, but constructed from nothing more than tents, worn-out blankets, and grocery carts. Skid Row has existed since the 1930s, but the real estate crisis and ridiculously expensive rent have transformed the area into an open-air human dump. Anyone passing through finds sidewalks taken over by tents, accumulated garbage, drug users, violence, and an almost complete absence of the state. Even the police only show up when called, and often that doesn't even solve anything, and the contrast is bizarre. On one side, you have California's richest city, full of millionaires showing off their mansions on Instagram. On the other, people living in conditions reminiscent of refugee camps, but in the heart of the United States, the country that loves to sell itself as a model for the world. Skid Row symbolizes the failure of the American dream. No matter how many skyscrapers glitter in Los Angeles, while this neighborhood exists, it makes it impossible to hide the uncomfortable question: how can the richest nation on earth coexist with so many people living without a home, without dignity, and without a future? Hey, forward this video to your friend who constantly talks about wanting to move to the United States. Just type, "Go for it, champ." Just don't forget to bring a tent, because in Los Angeles the rent is expensive, but the sidewalk is free. And the best part is, they even give you aid and a complete kit for your little habits, if you know what I mean. Skid Row became the symbol of the failure of the American dream. Because no matter how many skyscrapers shine in Los Angeles, as long as this neighborhood exists, it becomes impossible to conceal the uncomfortable question: how can the wealthiest nation on earth coexist with so many people living without a home, without dignity, and without a future? Number 4, the Supercar graveyard in Dubai. Last chapter we discussed homelessness, but here in Dubai the issue is ownerless cars. Yes, in the middle of the desert there's a real supercar graveyard. And we're not talking about old beaters or wrecked cars, no. There, you'll discover Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Porsches, and Bugattis all abandoned, covered in a thick layer of dust, baking in 40 degrees Celsius heat. How does this come about? It's quite simple. In Dubai, when someone can't pay their debts, they often prefer to abandon their car and leave the country. Bankrupt business people abandon luxury machines in parking lots as if they were scrap metal. Some wealthy individuals experiencing boredom simply trade in their vehicles and let the previous ones decay. After all, who has oil coming out of the ground? You don't need to worry about selling a used car, right? The most ironic part is that some of these supercars end up being auctioned for almost nothing. Some people have bought a Ferrari at auction for less than a used Corolla in Brazil. And to make the situation even more surreal, some of these abandoned luxury vehicles were even converted into Dubai police patrol cars. Can you just imagine being pulled over by a cop driving a Lamborghini? Now that's really showing off. Dubai is precisely that, a place where luxury and wastefulness coexist in a manner that truly seems like a joke. While in much of the world, owning a car is a symbol of achievement, there, they have so many that they can afford the luxury of letting a millionaire fleet turn into a luxury junkyard. 5. Dharavi, Mumbai's chaos factory. Look, India's here again. If there's one place that defines the word overcrowding, it's Dharavi in Mumbai. Over there, more than 1 million individuals are packed tightly into a mere 2.1 square kilometers. To help you understand, that translates to a density of 277,000 people per square kilometer. It's like an entire packed stadium living on just 2 or 3 streets in your neighborhood. The contrast is surreal. On one side, you have gleaming skyscrapers, luxury hotels, the glamour of Bollywood. On the other side, Dharavi, where every narrow alleyway seems like an endless human anthill. Basic infrastructure is almost non-existent, and access to clean water is limited. Sanitation is precarious, and most homes are makeshift structures with no ventilation, providing barely enough space to accommodate an entire family. But Dharavi isn't just misery, contrary to popular belief. The slum has also become a real informal economy machine. It's estimated that the neighborhood generates over $1 billion a year, mainly from recycling, artisanal production of leather, textiles, and pottery. It's virtually a survival factory where every square meter is utilized to generate some income, and therein lies the contradiction. Dharavi is at the same time one of the poorest and one of the most entrepreneurial areas on the planet. Some young folks from there get into good schools, some even leave and totally change their lives. But most remain trapped in this cycle, sharing space with rats, garbage, and sewage. Mumbai sells itself as a city of dreams, but Dharavi quickly reveals the truth. For many people, the Indian dream is just to survive another day in the midst of chaos. 6. The Monster Building in Hong Kong. From a distance, the Monster Building looks like a set from a science fiction movie. It's no surprise that it has appeared in numerous Hollywood productions, including Transformers, but for those who reside there, there's nothing glamorous about it. This complex houses more than 10,000 people squeezed into just over 2,000 apartments. This means that entire families are forced to live in extremely tiny spaces, often no bigger than a budget hotel room. The real estate crisis in Hong Kong has transformed this building into a symbol of a persistent problem the city insists on concealing: the outrageous property prices. Buying an apartment is practically impossible for the middle class, so thousands end up piling up in these concrete boxes. From the outside, the Monster Building impresses with the almost hypnotic symmetry of its windows and balconies. However, on the inside, daily life is a constant challenge. There's limited space, a severe lack of privacy, and even fundamental infrastructure problems. Attempting to repair cables or plumbing within this massive labyrinth proves to be an almost insurmountable mission. And the most ironic part is that while tourists flock to the building as an attraction and influencers strike aesthetic poses in the courtyard, the residents are forced to endure mold, leaks, and a quality of life that is nearly insufferable. The Monster Building is exactly that: an Instagram showcase on the outside, but an urban nightmare on the inside. It's the result of real estate speculation that has turned every square meter of the city into gold. Hong Kong may indeed be part of communist China, but here, living space is valued and sold at prices comparable to diamonds. Next up, we have number 7, when the train simply cannot accommodate everyone. Tokyo and Bangladesh. If you think the subway during rush hour in your city is unbearable, hold on. There are places where overcrowding has almost become an Olympic sport. In Japan, for instance, a whole profession exists to handle this very issue. They are the Oshiya, also known as the famed passenger pushers. Their mission is quite straightforward: cram passengers into the train car until the door finally shuts. And the outcome? Trains so packed you can't even raise an arm. And if someone sneezes, half the train gets sick along with them. But certainly it's all with precise Japanese punctuality. The train departs right on schedule, no matter the cost. Now, if you thought that was bizarre, wait until you see how it works in Bangladesh. Over there, physical limits don't exist. If the train car is packed, passengers just take up any space that's left, whether they're dangling from the window, grabbing onto the door, or even sitting on the train's roof. Every journey feels just like a badly choreographed action movie scene, except this is real life, every single day. While the chaos in Tokyo is organized, in Bangladesh, it's pure chaos. The difference is that in Japan, you have employees pushing people in. In Bangladesh, it's every man for himself, and gravity takes over. Number 8, Lahore, the world's dirtiest city. There are polluted cities, and then there's Lahore in Pakistan. The city carries an unenviable distinction, officially recognized as the most polluted city globally. The residents there are breathing air with a pollution index that reaches 348, which is more than 3 times above the maximum limit permitted by the World Health Organization. To give you a better idea, on many days, it's virtually impossible to see the horizon clearly. It's as if the entire city has been enveloped by a cloud of toxic dust, and this issue is certainly no secret. Its primary causes are undeniably obvious. Industries operating completely unregulated, and a huge fleet of polluting vehicles that totally take over the streets. The result is that every breath feels like taking a puff of exhaust fumes. It's no wonder respiratory diseases have skyrocketed in Lahore. Children and the elderly are the most severely affected, and hospitals are perpetually overwhelmed with cases of asthma and various lung infections. For many residents, wearing a mask isn't a choice. It's a matter of survival. The contrast is cruel. Lahore stands as one of Pakistan's truly vital cities, boasting a rich tapestry of culture, a deep historical heritage, and truly stunning architectural marvels. But all of that is hidden behind the curtain of pollution that suffocates those who live there. Living in Lahore is essentially this: departing your home daily to engage in an invisible battle against the very air you breathe. 348, which is over 3 times higher than the maximum limit permitted by the World Health Organization. To give you a better sense of it, on many days it's simply impossible to see the horizon. It's as if the city has been swallowed by a cloud of toxic dust, and the problem is no secret. The core reasons are quite evident. Industries function without any regulation, and an immense number of polluting vehicles dominate the streets. The result is that every single breath you take is like inhaling noxious exhaust smoke. No wonder respiratory illnesses have exploded in Lahore. The most affected are children and the elderly, and hospitals remain consistently crowded with cases of asthma and lung infections. For many residents, wearing a mask isn't a choice, it's a matter of survival. The contrast is cruel. Lahore, one of Pakistan's most significant cities, boasts a rich tapestry of culture, deep historical roots, and truly breathtaking architecture. But all of that is hidden behind the curtain of pollution that suffocates those who live there. Essentially, living in Lahore means stepping out of your home each day to engage in an unseen struggle against the very air that you inhale. 9. Dandora, the city-swallowing landfill. If you think the landfill near your city is enormous, wait until you get to Dandora in Kenya. The location first opened in 1977, was then deemed unsuitable in 2001, but can you guess what happened next? It's still running to this day, going strong. Every day, thousands of tons of trash are dumped at this location. The result? A mountain of waste that grows non-stop, releasing toxic smoke, poisonous gases, and turning the lives of nearby residents into a daily nightmare. And we're not talking about just a handful of people either. There are entire communities living right next to the landfill, breathing toxic smoke and walking on contaminated ground. Studies indicate that the concentration of lead in both the soil and groundwater is 10 times higher than the permitted limit. This means that even the water they drink is poisoned. And the most outrageous part is that kids grow up in this. Many are involved in collecting recyclable materials amidst the dirt, surrounded by flies, smoke, and illnesses. It's as if their childhood was traded for a shift at the worst job in the world. Dandora isn't just a landfill. It serves as a stark reminder of how millions of people remain forgotten, breathing in poison every single day, while the rest of the world opts to turn a blind eye. Number 10, Hanoi, the never-ending traffic jam. Ever been stuck in traffic complaining about losing an hour? In Hanoi, Vietnam, that's a luxury. Here, the average speed reaches 10 kilometers per hour. This means you move quicker by walking than by driving. Some folks spend half a day just to get across the city. Half a day. If you head out for work in the morning, you might very well find yourself arriving at the office right around dinner time. Why does this occur? The city expands much faster than its roads, and cars are more affordable than ever. Millions of motorbikes and public transport barely exists. The outcome: a cacophony of horns, smoke, and individuals attempting to cram into streets seemingly not designed for such a multitude of vehicles. The government has already pledged miraculous solutions. The core concept involves enhancing public transportation and, surprisingly, outlawing motorcycles completely by the year 2030. Now, imagine a city where almost everyone depends on a motorcycle to make a living, and suddenly you wake up to this news. Is it going to work out? Of course not. Living in Hanoi is basically about learning to be patient, because here, being stuck in traffic isn't the exception, it's the norm. Send this video to that friend of yours who's always complaining about traffic and write, "Chill out, buddy. Be thankful you weren't born in Hanoi." Number 11, Cairo, the city of garbage. When you think of Cairo, you instantly imagine pyramids, pharaohs, and ancient history. But there's a part of the city that seems straight out of a nightmare, Manshiat Nasser, better known as Garbage City, and the name is no exaggeration. There, practically the entire neighborhood is a waste dump. Streets, houses, alleys, everything is covered in bags and more bags of garbage. How did this start? Simple. For decades, the government didn't have an efficient collection system. Thus, the inhabitants themselves devised the solution. They collect garbage from other neighborhoods, bring it home in carts, separate what can be recycled, and try to make a living from it. But the price is high. The air is filled with smoke from burnt plastic, the water is contaminated with chemicals, and the living conditions are inhumane. Whole families cope daily with rats, insects, and all sorts of diseases, and the irony of it is truly cruel. Just a few miles away, tourists happily snap photos at the Giza pyramids, completely oblivious that a community is literally residing right on top of a mountain of trash. It's as though the world's most renowned postcard destination is hiding its absolute brutal opposite. Cairo is just that, a city bearing the burden of being civilization's birthplace, yet it hasn't managed to solve the fundamentals providing dignity to those existing amidst plastic bags and toxic smoke. 12. The ghost bicycles of China? The idea seemed quite brilliant. In 2015, China introduced bike-sharing programs to alleviate traffic congestion and decrease air pollution. Anyone could simply rent a bike using their cell phone, use it, and then leave it anywhere they wished. But it ended up going very, very wrong. Companies dumped millions of bicycles in the cities, far more than the actual demand. The result was that streets became completely clogged with bikes left everywhere, on sidewalks, in squares, and even in the middle of the road. It felt like a two-wheeled invasion. When the companies started to go bankrupt, the problem became even more surreal. Bicycle graveyards were born. Vast lots are filled with colorful bike mountains, with thousands of bikes piled high, many still new. A scene that more closely resembles an art installation than city waste. And the irony is, the supposed ecological solution became an environmental problem. Bikes rusting in massive piles, occupying space and demonstrating how even the most brilliant ideas can become a disaster due to a lack of proper planning. Today, these graveyards have even become a bizarre tourist spot. Influencers go there to take pictures in the middle of the bike piles, as if it were a scene from a dystopian movie. What was meant to be the transport of the future became Instagrammable scrap metal. 13. The Sitarum River, the dirtiest water in the world. Nearly 9 million individuals rely on the Sitarum River in Indonesia. They cook, wash clothes, and even drink this water. The problem? The Sitarum holds a far from enviable title. It's considered the most polluted river on the planet. Decades of industrial activity have turned the water into a toxic soup. Along its banks stand 2,000 factories, many of which discharge chemical waste directly into the river. The outcome? There are heavy metals, bacteria, and garbage floating all around. In some sections, the layer of plastic is so incredibly thick that it appears you could actually walk on its surface. And the most absurd thing, even then, local residents still use the river every day. Not because they want to, but because they have no alternative. Children play on the banks, women wash clothes, families cook, all with the same water that looks like it came from an open-air sewer. The government also started a $500 million program for the river's recovery. They created rules, banned dumping, and talked about rehabilitation. However, corruption and the infamous hidden pipes from factories persist in covertly releasing toxic substances. In practice, very little has changed. The Sitarum is living proof that you can indeed turn water into poison, and that in some parts of the world, drinking a glass of water can be as dangerous as smoking a lead cigarette. 14. Rocinha, the slum that became a war zone. Rocinha was once sold as a Brazilian postcard. It appeared in movies, documentaries, and even on the cover of an international magazine, serving as an example of a vibrant and creative community. But the reality for those who live there today is very different. Rocinha has practically become a war zone. Over 200,000 people live squeezed into this labyrinth of alleys and makeshift buildings. And amidst all this, it's not the government, the police, or even the state that holds sway. The rules are set by armed gangs, fiercely disputing every inch of territory as if it were a war board game. For the inhabitants, life is a daily round of Russian roulette. Just going to the market, taking your child to school, or simply stepping out of your home can mean finding yourself caught in the midst of a shootout. And what's most outrageous is that the government pretends not to see it. Basic infrastructure, almost none. A reliable water system? Forget it. Decent sanitation? Not that either. The contrast is cruel. From above, tourists take pictures of Rocinha, thinking it's picturesque. Down below, those who live there face stray bullets, robberies, and a lack of everything. It's the difference between the postcards sold to the world and real life, which is anything but romantic. Rocinha clearly shows that in Rio de Janeiro, the glamour of its beaches and Christ the Redeemer is merely a few kilometers from a place where sheer survival is an act of courage. Give us a thumbs up for this, because I'm not sending my editor to film inside Rocinha in the middle of a shootout. You want 4K footage of stray bullets? Only if you fund it. 15. Urban surrealities. If you think you've seen it all, hold on, because the world still has some urban oddities worthy of a Netflix series. In Amsterdam, for example, it's not just the canals that are full of water. Every year, more than 15,000 bicycles are rescued from inside them. That's right. The guys have official divers just to fish out drowned bicycles. And every now and then, they don't just find bikes, they've even pulled refrigerators and cars from the bottom. In Turkey, there's a neighborhood that looks like something out of a Disney cartoon. Hundreds of mini white castles side by side. The project was meant to be a luxury resort for Middle Eastern millionaires. The result? Bankruptcy, oil crisis. And today the castles are still there, all abandoned, looking like a set from a children's horror movie. In China, there's a shopping center with an entire city block of houses constructed on its rooftop. That's right, people actually reside atop them all, and it doesn't end there. In big cities, there are also so-called urban villages, remnants of rural towns that were swallowed up by modern skyscrapers. It's as if there's a piece of the last century hidden among the futuristic buildings. And in New York, the most desired city on the planet, people are living in 24-square-meter micro-apartments. For some, it's the home of the future. For others, it's just more proof that you need to be wealthy to even live in a small space. These tales reveal the surreal aspect of modern cities, places meant to symbolize progress, yet they frequently transform into settings for bizarre occurrences no one could envision until witnessed firsthand. 10-6. Shibuya Crossing, the chaos that became order. And since we've spent the whole video talking about chaos, it's only fair to end with a chaos that actually worked. Welcome to Shibuya Crossing in Tokyo, the most famous and busiest pedestrian intersection on the planet. Here, each time the traffic light turns green, thousands of people cross simultaneously in every single direction. From above, it looks like a colony of choreographed human ants. However, contrary to what you might imagine, there's no pushing, no trampling, and absolutely no fighting. Everyone crosses together, in perfect harmony. This crossing is so iconic, it's become a tourist attraction. Some people go to Tokyo just to sit in a cafe across the street and watch the movement. And of course, it has appeared in dozens of movies, music videos, and commercials. The Shibuya Crossing demonstrates that in certain global locations, even chaos itself can be meticulously organized. Whereas in other cities, simply crossing the street can present a significant survival challenge. In Tokyo, the planet's most massive human surge appears to be a flawlessly synchronized ballet. In the end, the whole world is turning into a giant slum. Some call it New Delhi, others Los Angeles, and others Hanoi. The only real difference is choosing your cause of death: pollution, a stray bullet, or unending boredom from traffic. So, which one would you pick? If you've made it this far, comment Urban Hell, so I know who survived until the end. And don't forget to check out this other chaos appearing on the screen. Thanks, and see you later.